We are Nothing Venture, Nothing Game. I'm your host, DM Jared, and tonight I'm joined by Fabio
Hey, hey, hey.
and Steve.
Yo.
And we are looking at the new playtest coming out that just dropped today, January 5th. And we are looking at the class Gunslinger. Clearly, if you look at our older episode where Fabio threatens all of Paizo if Gunslinger doesn't come out, they listened and they said, I'll be a Huckleberry, and decided to drop the class.
It's Christmas again! I am so happy that they dropped this class. I wasn't quite sure they were going to do it. And if you look at our last video, I was just like, oh man, they totally could. It would be a little tricky, but I'm not 100% sure, but like, it would be dope. And they totally went all in for it and made it. And ladies and gentlemen, this class is amazing.
Steve, you're kind of quiet. What are you feeling? What are you feeling?
Oh, you guys were talking. You know, it's quiet. At first glance, they have a lot of cool feats and moves. I think it vies for power from the fighter too much for my taste.
So what we're gonna have is Fabio and Steve Jello wrestle fight.
I was gonna say a duel.
A duel.
Like we both, back up 10 paces with squirt guns filled with vodka. Walk around, turn around, bang, bang, bang.
So, first impressions. Both Fabio and Steve literally were reading it maybe 20 minutes ago, and I was like, "Hey, we're gonna do a quick reaction video." So they're like skimming through it. So this is a quick reaction. So what's your reaction, guys? What are you feeling? Steve hates it. Fabio loves it.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. This difference between hate and realizing something's too powerful.
Okay. So Steve thinks it's an OP class, which I have to kind of agree with because Fabio loves it and Fabio loves OP shit. So
I love OP shit. Give me the OP shit.
So that's my barometer. If Steve's like, this is OP, Fabio's gonna be like, I love it. It's not OP.
Like I said, this is going from purely reading what the class can do. We haven't played it yet. That we may or may not be playing this in a game at some point to kind of gauge it and see how fun it is. But at the moment on paper, at the moment on paper, it seems a bit much.
I agreed to a point with Steve because there's a lot of really cool stuff that they did with Gunslinger. They gave you a lot of these little actions and a lot of these different abilities that can really affect not just the battlefield, but yourself. You can affect your allies. You can mess up enemies. I love that. I love, and everybody knows Fabio doesn't like magic. It's not magic. And some of it's stupid. I'm gonna say this: a lot of the moves are really stupid and take the whole point of playing fantasy play to a whole different point, which is what I love. Like, it's how ridiculous can we get with guns? And any idea that pops in your head somewhere, it's on the Gunslinger, and that's why I feel like it's an amazing class. There probably will need some balancing. I like it as is, Paizo. You can just leave it alone. I'll play it tomorrow. Like, we'll figure it out. My character will go missing, and then all of a sudden, yo, Gunslinger in the mix, and just well out. But that's my thought. My 2 cents.
I'm gonna say this. But let's talk about the negatives, right? Like, let's just get the negatives out the way. Because I can gush about this class, no problem.
All day.
Yes. The negative I have is that they get these jumps in weapons that other classes don't have. So what I'm talking about is they get trained in martial weapons, which seems like a lot. I kind of wish they went the rogue route where the rogues were trained in simple plus these specifics. This is a very weird class because it's called the Gunslinger. So you're very focused about guns and crossbows. I feel the fact that they get this trained in martial weapons, and then later on they get to choose a random weapon. At what level is that?
Weapon group, I think it was at 13, I want to say.
Yeah, at 13.
Yes, 13. At 13. So just to clarify, the weapon proficiencies that the Gunslinger gets is expert in simple firearms and crossbows, expert in martial firearms or crossbows, and there actually is now stats for simple and martial and advanced firearms. So they also get trained in advanced firearms and crossbows. But then in addition to that, they also get trained in simple and martial weapons just flat out. Mm-hmm. And as they increase in proficiency at 13th, similar to the fighter would have to pick a weapon group, and then they become legend at 13. And then then eventually at 19th, they get all the rest of the weapons kind of catch up. In the Gunslinger, all their guns and crossbows become legendary as well. They get to pick one additional weapon group, which is of their choice, and the proficiency of that gets to master. And I understand the reason they were going for that, because some people may want to have a melee weapon or some other weapon, or maybe an alchemical bomb or something in their offhand and using a pistol or something in their main hand or whatever. I just think that it's a bit, they could have done that with a feat. If you wanted to go that route, you pick this way or this feat, instead of giving it carte blanche to all the other classes. Because literally a Gunslinger is nearly as good, is as good with a weapon as any other martial class, as well as being expert and legendary in guns, as the fighter gets legendary in their stuff.
Mm-hmm. Besides that, I think that is my biggest gripe with it, is the ranking and how fast it gets with certain weapons. It does make it kind of a superior martial class. Which, if you read a lot of the abilities, there it does call for like a one-handed weapon. So I kind of understand why they did it. Obviously needs to be mixed around with.
Like I said, I can see the potential for some classes or some characters wanting to use a non-firearm or non-cross, but that could have been solved in like the specific way you would take, and they would get benefits for that. Mm-hmm. Or they, like I said, they may be a feat line to get access to it. To maybe we'll take that feat line, and that increases your proficiency, right? Mm-hmm. And then that would increase, and that would give you like specific moves to be able to use like firearm and weapon, instead of just giving a carte blanche to every single person who will like literally walk in the room. Oh, I my firearm is busted. Okay, I'm going to pick up this sword and be as good as most martial classes.
Mm-hmm. Be close.
Barbarian firearms. That's all I have to
say.
Are they agile?
No, they're not.
No.
Okay, good.
Agile.
Well, you'd have to take a. Well, that wouldn't work.
Okay, so that was my gripe. Steve, your gripe. Any gripes? Just out the gate, a pre-glance.
No, that was really my major thing. I was looking through what they get. I was like, ooh, I mean, I understand where they were going with it, but it just I never want a class to overshadow another class. And look, I'm not saying this does overshadow, but if it isn't, it's close. Mm-hmm. It's real close.
Fabio, any gripes? Big gripes?
Loading.
Gripes?
I don't want to load my gun. I want to shoot forever. That's what I want. That's my gripe with this. Mm-hmm. The fact that every single gun has loading, mm-hmm. Meaning that, and crossbows do too, so it is what it is. Basically meaning that you take a shot, you're going to have to spend an interact action to basically either, clear out, put your new bullet in there or new arrow in there and shoot the shit again. In my mind, it's one of those slow down things, because the guns themselves, or at least the guns that they've shown so far, don't seem so ridiculously powerful, right? And I know I'm going to get a little pushback after that. They're not ridiculous. Are they powerful? Yes, because a lot of them do have, some really cool tags on them, which we'll mention in a little bit, mm-hmm. right? But for the most part, damage-wise, you're going to be doing something similar. It'll be up there, if you crit, or it'll be cool because you're going to add all these other things, but I'm going to take a shot, it's going to do whatever it does damage-wise, and then I got to interact. and then I can either take another shot again. There are other ways to go around it. There are a couple of cool deeds or cool feats and stuff like that that are in there that can, make it risky to reload or do something else. But for the most part, I felt like that was one thing that slowed it down because in my mind, to do unless you're like rocking two pistols or unless you're rocking like a certain weapon, you're gonna shoot twice, then reload once, and it's like okay, next turn at the top of my turn, I gotta reload my second one, then shoot. I feel like there can be a little bit of clunkiness there, and sometimes you just don't have the actions for it. Even with like having like the action economy that we have, where you're like, hey, I have three actions, do whatever I want. It's like okay, if I'm guaranteed to shoot one, I have to guarantee to reload another. So I'm always dedicating two actions, basically just to shooting. Like I get it, and there's ways around it, but like off first glance, it was something that like kind of bugged me a little bit. Like I'd like, oh, maybe if they had like you take two shots, then you have to reload, or maybe it's, you know what I mean, like a clip. But that's just me being ridiculous and wanting more stuff for my Christmas gift. But I won't be greedy. I won't be greedy.
So my second favorite thing that I wanted to talk about are the feats. There's a lot to this class, to these classes. We've all chosen feats that we really liked or wanted to talk about and just highlight. Please, if you have the chance, sit down and read through the playtest. It's amazing. This is our first impressions. So the first feat I really drew my attention is at 4th level. It's the alchemic shot. It's 2 actions and it does require a lot for it. So basically, you have to either have alchemic bombs on you or have the ability to craft alchemic bombs. Basically, what you do with this one is you take out a bomb that you have and you pour it into your ammo. So you just jam it down your muzzle. You just pour it all in there. You shake it up for good measure, and then you shoot your weapon, right? So you fire it. The strike deals damage as the same of a bomb. So if it's sonic, it does sonic damage. Remember, the bombs have sonic, so you could deal sonic damage with your firearm. And it deals an additional D6 persistent of the same type as the bomb. If it fails, you take the damage of the bomb, and the firearm misfires. And then the D6 increases to 2D6 and 3D6 at higher levels. I really, really think those are fun. I think it's a interesting option. It does bring in other class stuff, which you have to dedicate for. You either have to dedicate to Alchemist, have an Alchemist on your party, bribe an Alchemist, hold an Alchemist hostage, or yourself take alchemic crafting, right? Which isn't that hard because you could get that at level 1. It's not hard to get into that. There's a lot of ways to get it. So that's my first feat. We all, like I said, chose 3. My second one is a mid-tier one, and that is going to have to be redirecting shot. So this is 10th level, right? So an ally misses with a ranged attack that uses thrown weapon or ammunition, and I have a weapon, right? So it's a reaction, first and foremost. It's on page 10. And so, the fighter throws the javelin, and seeing that your ally's weapon attack is going to go astray, you fire your weapon to course correct the thrown or fired weapon, and you make an attack roll. Ignoring any bonuses the target would get from lesser or standard cover, your ally uses your attack roll instead of their attack roll. So basically, you see your fighter throws the javelin, and then you're like, nope, that's wrong, and you shoot it in the air. That is some Hawkeye Marvel bullshit. That's all I have to say. That's just awesome. I like it because obviously, if let's say the player who's the fighter rolls a 1, you're like, oh, I'm gonna burn my reaction, because anything's better than the 1, right? Like anything is better than the critical failure,
or another one,
which thank you, DJ Khaled, just another one.
Another one.
Hopefully you're not going to roll a 1, right? The probability is low. It's there, but it also makes you not useful, but it also makes you like friendlier, right? Because you're not like the lone drifter who's wandering the desert. You're now the friendly like neighborhood gunslinger who's helping out your friend next to you. And I in my head it's adorable, right? Like you have like, and it's so silly because you're using a firearm, and like bang, I fixed it. And everyone's like, wait,
I got you, homie.
Like, wait, what? You just shot my javelin. I fixed it though.
You're not wrong.
I mean, yeah. I think I like that. And finally, my last feat choice that's gonna be higher on the whole end, and it's gonna be at 16th level, Fatal Bullet. And the reason why I chose that one is you deal an additional die of the appropriate size and damage type for the trait after doubling the weapon's damage. For example, after critical hit with a fatal D12 weapon, you add an additional D12 to the attack after doubling its damage. So, just so you understand, all firearms are fatal. Well, the ones they gave us. So, if I have...
all except one.
All except one. The blunderbuss, right? Yeah, sandbase. So, let's just say I'm using a pistol, a flintlock pistol. It's a fatal D8, and I crit, and I'm at level 16. I roll 2 D8s, and then I add another D8. You know, that's just adding more damage. And remember, the key to combat is if your enemies can't hit you, you win.
Victory.
Right? What's the best solution to combat? No combat.
Kill.
Yeah, and then if you're playing the way of the sniper, that is just adding to the whole fact that your sneak attack, you're probably using the sniper rifle, which they call the RQ bus. And that's your sniper rifle. It has 80-foot range. At level 16, you probably have a +3 striking. So you're dealing a butt ton of damage on that crit to begin with. This is to make sure you kill that dragon. Just outright.
Yep.
Look, there goes Smog. Bong! I killed him.
Shot him.
Yeah. Obviously, you can't use this with the blunderbuss. Like we said, it doesn't have the fatal die. Now, here's my question with this, and maybe Steve rules with Steve.
Rules with Steve.
It has gunslinger traits, so you have to be a gunslinger, but no other traits. When you critically hit with, it says with a firearm. Okay, I just had to double check. Because I was like, well, what if you have a light pick and you critically hit and it has fatal, which is a D12?
Bro.
Wow! I just murdered that dragon with a light pick. Just boop.
Bro, nah, just throw the light pick and shoot it. You're good to go.
Technically, that's an option. That's like a level 1 option.
I know.
So those are my 3 choices of feats that like really stuck out to me. Like I said, we're gonna go around the table and talk about stuff we like. Fabio, what were some of the feats that kind of stuck out with you that you were really like keen on?
Gotcha. So I had an original first idea. I'm switching it to because I'm lazy, right? But it's super easy. The first one No. This is a level 2 feat. It's called pistol twirl. Right? I like.
Yeah, that's good.
I have to check that one.
Pistol twirl. Your quick gestures and performative flair distract an opponent, leaving them vulnerable to your attack. You feint against an opponent within the required weapon's first range increment, rather than an opponent's within melee range. On a success or critical success, the foe is flat-footed against your melee and ranged attacks, rather than only your melee attacks. On a critical failure, you're flat-footed against both the target's melee and range attacks, rather than only its main melee attack. So the idea is, in my mind, it just sounds like, okay, it's just, some flair, whatever. Listen, playing a gunslinger. What's a gunslinger without spitting the motherfucking guns, B? So like in my mind, you're doing like the little spin trick and everything like that. You're catching people off guard. They're like, whoa, this dude's not messing around. Yeah.
What was the scene from Blade where he's spinning the gun and slaps Ron Perlman? He's like, whap! And it's like the second Blade movie where he spins the gun and just like slaps Ron Perlman like 4 or 5 times.
Bring it back.
Yes.
But no, I love the pistol twirl just because thematically it makes sense, while at the same time, it's a cool freaking move. The fact that you can you're not so much demoralizing somebody, but you're making them flat-footed from far away, right? That's cool. You're like, just twist my pistol, catch you off guard, now I'm going to shoot you, and you're going to be flat-footed to my gun and to my melee weapon. So that's the cool thing that I really like about that. It just looks cool, it sounds cool, and rules-wise, it's cool. The second one, this is one of my favorite moves because it's a BS move, Black Powder Boost, right? The requirements is you're wielding a loaded firearm, and the trigger is you leap. It's a reaction move. While dashing into position, you fire your weapon behind you to speed yourself along. You fire your weapon beneath or behind you, adding 10 feet to either the horizontal or vertical distance you travel. If your leap required a roll, such as a high jump or long jump, you can use this reaction after determining the result. So this is for all the people that played like Doom back in the day, or used to play like any of those games where you had to rocket jump and shoot, right? This was that. I remember playing Turok as a kid, right? And you had to back the freaking bazooka, and you had to jump, hit it, and then just keep moving. That's all this move is. This move is stupid. When anybody pick this move, not anybody with a lot of sense. I'm going to pick this move because it's ridiculous. But instead of like, I'm going to jump over him. How? I'm like, I took a leap, so I'm going to jump. I'm going to shoot down. I got 10 more feet. I'm over him. I'm good to go. That's it. That's it.
Note to self, make walls all a little bit higher.
I'm just going to do something retarded, right? Or just do something ridiculous. I love this move just because of the shenanigans that you can pull with it, that you can just do something wild with it. And it's one of those where you're just looking at this like, if you're going to be, a numbers cruncher, if you're going to go, straight min-maxer, it doesn't always work. But if you want to have like a wild idea, Black Powder Boost, in my opinion, will give you that little extra boost, right, to get where you're going.
That's how you lose hero points.
Right. And then the last one that I like is Cold Shot. Now, Cold Shot is one of those things where it's super useful, mainly because there are a lot of times where you try to do certain things in the game, and there are rules for it, but sometimes people may not always remember. This one's like, boom, it's right here. Cold Shot. You target a specific part of your foe's body, damaging the chosen limb or body part in a way that hinders your foe's ability to move, fight, or think. Declare a portion of your foe's anatomy to target and make a ranged weapon strike. If you hit and deal damage, apply one of the following effects to the target until the end of your next turn based on the body part you targeted. So you shoot somebody in the arm, they become enfeebled 2. If you crit, it's enfeebled 1 for a full minute. You shoot them in the head, they get stupefied 2. On a crit, it's stupefied 1 for a full minute. All right? Legs, target takes 10-foot status penalty to speed. On a critical, it's -5 for a minute. And wings, which is a weird one, they immediately fall 20 feet on a regular shot. On a crit, it's 40 feet. Right? And then they fall down where it's like normal. Now, my cool thing about it is like, you shoot people in the head and it screws up their mind. I like that. You shoot somebody in the arm, okay, they're not as effective in combat. I like that, and it's built into the class. I'm not now taking, dipping into another class, so I feel like I have some, something function in the middle of battle. It's like, no, I'm just going to start shooting at legs, shooting at arms, shooting things in the head, shooting things in the wings, shooting things in the tentacles. Because even when it says for arms, it says for another limb, such as used for attack, such as a tentacle. Yeah. So if somebody's got a tentacle, claw, they got that little baby arm that, pokes you and turns you to stone, shooting the baby arm. Shooting the baby arm right between the second and third knuckle. Screws that little baby arm.
No.
That's what I'm doing. But no, I like it. It's built in. There's some dope function. You crit, you do an extra bit of just F you for the next minute. I love it. Like, and as somebody who's a min maxer at heart, just to having that ability to be like, all right, you know what? Let me mess this up. Let me mess that up. Let me mess this up. I'm gonna disassemble somebody. I'm gonna go head, shoulders, knees, and toes for a whole round and call it a day. Called shot.
I agree with you. I like that they built it into the class. Additionally, it's not that you don't have to use a firearm. It's if you want to build crossbow, you could still do this with the crossbow. So it is useful for both ends. I'm pretty sure. I just double checked. I don't think it says you have to have a firearm. No, it's a range strike.
Ranged weapon strike.
Yeah. The falling one, the wings one is the weirdest one. It's kind of lackluster compared to the other ones, right?
Yeah, like I'd rather if you shoot somebody in the wings, they just fall to the ground, or like they fall 20 feet. Okay, cool. You crit, they fall 40 feet. But it's like, all right, I'm shooting somebody that's 30 feet. Okay, they'll be all right. Yeah. And the fact that it says near the bottom that they fall in such a way that they take no damage, and I get it. They're falling. It's damage on damage. So I shoot somebody. If I shoot a Drake out of the sky and it hits the ground, I want it to be messed up.
Yeah, I feel like it should be fall prone. Like if it hits the ground, it should fall prone.
Yeah, at least
it should don't give it damage because Steve's right. Because Steve's argument was, because clearly we talked about this before. Steve's argument was, hey, you're already dealing critical damage, so give it a status effect. Everything else has a status effect. Falling prone sucks. That's an action to stand. That actually is super detrimental to the creature that is now prone. You hit the harpy's prone. It's a really useful ability, and it becomes the go-to. Because for me, I would just be like, I'm going to shoot the goddamn harpy in the head. Yep. Stupefy on a crit? Stupefy is dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Stupefy will mess you up.
Yeah.
I think for that move, if they did a thing where it screws up their flight speed, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
If it's like, oh, you shoot them in the wing, okay, they fall 20 feet and their flight speed gets reduced by 20 feet. I'm like, oh, if they don't fly that fast, they now have to fall down and they can't fly. Okay, cool. If they do fly fast, like most dragons or Drake or everything else that has almost even Rage had 100 foot, 100 feet, or if I remember more of speed, she can get around. Right? Right? But if you reduce it by 40 feet, now she can only move 20 out on a crit. Mm-hmm. I feel like that'll disable it because then it also falls in line with shooting somebody in the leg.
Yeah. Which you're right. But I'm sorry. And your last option?
That was my last option.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I did see. Yeah, sorry. I did the pistol spin, black powder, cold shot.
I liked your choices. Yours were all utilitarian. And they all had a little flair to them. I like that. So now we're gonna hop over to Steve. Steve, you better bring the heat.
I need Steve.
So I was gonna actually pick a different feat for my second level, but as going through, I was originally gonna pick Risky Reload because I think it's just hilarious and it fixes the reload problem. Yeah. Just don't miss.
Just stop being bad.
Just don't miss. Which basically means that with one action you can reload and strike in the same turn. But if you miss the hit, your gun misfires, and misfires isn't something we talked about. But there is maintenance that has to be done with firearms, and if you don't do the maintenance, your gun has a chance of misfiring and blowing up in your face, in your face.
Right in the fetch.
Right in the fetch blaster.
I missed that gun.
Me too.
But I was going to go with that and go with a bunch of reload ones because to counter Fabio's thing where when reloading is annoying, and there's a lot of feats in here that lets you bypass or reduce reloading. But seeing what you guys picked, I honestly we're going to go pick my second level feat. It's called, again, using things for the Gunslinger that lets you either do cool or ridiculous things, I think is the way to go. So my level 2 feat's Blast Lock. Yes! It's got to be Blast Lock. So it's literally oh wait, there's a locked door. Bow! Not anymore! So basically you can Sometimes taking the shortest distance between 2 points involves removing an obstacle or two. You shoot the required firearm at the lock at 10 or within 10 feet. You make a DC check to pick the lock. And it has the same, I'm pretty sure it's similar or the same as opening a lock with actual lock picks. Crit success, you open the lock, or you open the lock where you receive 2 successes on a complex lock. Success is you open a lock or 1 success versus a complex lock. Failure is you get a -2 to further attempts, or if you crit fail, you fail to open it, and it's a -4 against subsequent attempts to unlock the lock. But it's literally just pulling your gun out and shooting the lock, just like they do in the movie.
Yeah, you breach the door. I think that's fun. I really appreciate that. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
All right, so my next one, we're going to jump from level 2 to level 12 because I didn't really find anything that you guys already haven't talked about. And look, there are general, like I get +2 to hit, or I get +2 damage, or I could aim, or I could do this. But I mean, we all know that those are there. We're talking about some cool stuff.
Yeah.
What the level 12 feat that I thought was really funny is penetrating fire. Is little like, well, you have a buddy that's cowering behind you. I'll just shoot both of you.
Yeah.
And literally your bullet goes through the first person and into the second one. You blast the bullet and with ranged, because there are feats that can technically do this. But with firearms and being able to move, and obviously you're as a gunslinger, you're gonna be moving around a little bit. Plus you're gonna need time to reload, and there is a feat that lets you move and reload at the same time. And again, it's another one I was thinking about taking, but so you're gonna be moving around. And this one is you blast a bullet through one foe and into another. Choose 2 targets, one that is giving lesser cover to the other. Make a single attack against both targets. The attack ignores any lesser cover. The close person gives to the second person. Roll damage only once. It applies to both creatures, and that's basically it. You just like literally like
shoot them both.
So I thought that was shoot them dead. That was level 12. And level 14, I'm not sure if any of you guys thought this was cool, but I thought Dance of Thunder was amazing. It does have a big detriment to it, but I think it's worth it. Dance of Thunder is a 3-action activity. You can only do it once a minute. It has the concentrate tag, but I don't think that's too much of a problem for the Gunslinger in and of itself. Key requirements are you have to have a loaded firearm or crossbow, and which means you can use this with crossbows, which is cool. And you're not fatigued. Yeah, your steps echo with thunderous retort of exploding black powder or crossbow fire. As you dance a dance of death. Use any of the following actions in any order. You step, strike against a target within your firearm's first range increment, or interact to reload your firearm. If you attempted a strike and it succeeds, you can repeat these 3 actions in any order again. If you attempted a strike in the second set and succeeded, you can repeat the third actions one last time. After doing this, you're fatigued for a minute. You literally just go running all over the place as a blur and just firing bullets or arrow bolts all over the place.
So I
can see Hawkeye doing this crazy bullshit.
Yeah. As I understood it, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can do this up to 3 times.
Correct. So in essence, your one turn would have 9 actions. If you successfully kept hitting with your strike. Now keep in mind, map is a thing.
Yeah.
So your second and your third shots are gonna have map, but you still can step, which means you can step out of someone to just because remember, reloading is an interact action. Firing a ranged weapon next to somebody can trigger an attack of opportunity if they have it. So you can step away from somebody and free up that attack of opportunity, shoot somebody that's relatively close to you, and then reload your gun. And if you hit, you can do it again. And if you hit again, you do it again.
Yeah. I could see this being really useful because you use the 3 actions to do it. But that in my head, you just have a bandolier of guns, and you're now just pulling out guns, firing, pulling out a new
dropping
gun.
it.
Yeah, and then firing, because it doesn't say it has to be the same firearm. It just says,
correct, but you are getting a chance to reload it anyway.
No,
it's part of the ability.
No, yeah, I'll do that on my last gun. So on my very last gun, I'll have a reload.
So you can just do that anywhere.
No, man.
Bow, bow,
Yeah.
bow.
Yeah.
It's almost like Reaper from Overwatch. He just drops the guns and
Yes.
spawns 2 new guns. Yeah. Yeah. It's gross.
Yeah. Consistently.
It's amazing.
That's mayhem damage. That's how you create mayhem damage. And obviously you could see how we're all just 3 different people literally came up with 3 different crazy concepts. I that's what I really like about this playtest. So closing statements on the Gunslinger class. Steve, what do you feel?
I think that the utility feats that they gave it, they gave it the feel of you're actually a gunslinger. Like you're literally ricocheting. If you take the feat, you literally could ricochet shots off of walls like RoboCop does in RoboCop 1. You can literally do crazy stuff like redirecting an arrow that someone else shot to make it hit. You can you can even redirect attacks that you're coming into your friendlies and to make them miss and give them extra armor class. They have a lot of cool abilities that really make it feel like you're a gunslinger. That being said, they also have a lot of things in there that make it, like I said, this is a playtest, so hopefully that when people play it and they figure it out, it just might be a little bit overtuned with the base amount of proficiencies they get. But also the three different ways that they get when you first make your class really define how your playstyle is going to be, but it doesn't directly define it, which I think is nice. So you can play similarly with different ways in the base, at least in the base Gunslinger.
Mm-hmm. And just to clarify, Steve isn't just saying ways as in like possibilities. They call them ways, like the Mandalorian. This is the way. Like this is your choice of your combat style. So pistolero, drifter, and sniper.
Yeah, it's called Way of the Drifter, Way of the Pistolero, and Way of the Sniper. Way of the Sniper.
So just
and like I said, it gives you.
Yeah. So I'll for our general quick and dirty. Like we just got this. Looking at it, I like this. So I was talking to everyone before, and I said, hey, listen. You know, I was concerned out of the 2 classes, like which would be weird. Gunslinger, I was very much, if you look at our earlier video, I didn't think it was going to make it. And I'm glad it did, because it gives a lot of options. It's another martial range class that focuses on range. And it does really focus on range. So you, unlike the Ranger, which can focus on melee, ranged, or even just tracking abilities, this focuses on being a gunslinger, a pistol fighter. It reminds me of the old spaghetti westerns. Everything about it, I feel, is oozing spaghetti western. You know, daring duelist. I'm, you know, so it's awesome. I like just reading even the abilities, like Steve said, the feats. You do crazy things, and that's what a gunslinger is. They are crazy, right? So you're Annie Oakley. You're doing these really dope things, and I think that's what I love about this class. It has so much flair, and the people that created it have love for this class, or at least have had love for the first edition class, because even the little subtitle boxes is like, you do the dance of death. Like in my head, like that is so dramatic, and when you read it, you see it in your head. You see this character just, you know, we've all seen the movies. Everything slows down, the pigeons fly by, and then they're like, boom, boom. You know, what was it? The
John Woo films.
Yeah, the John Woo films, and it's gonna be a fun class. I'm excited. I want to see what my players can do with it. I want to test it out if I can. But that's just me, and obviously we have to land, and these will be the final thoughts of our quick and dirty. We're gonna give it over to Fabio. He is going to take us out because he loves the Gunslinger. This class is for him. Fabio, tell me how you feel.
That's all I got. No, Paizo, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All I've wanted for like a very long time was to have Gunslinger and just have the ability to just shoot somebody from far away, spin my pistol, throw some dirty shit in their face, right? Shoot them in the kneecap, have them fall down, and they literally gave all of those little things to the Gunslinger. Like the moves work thematically, so you can picture it in your mind. The moves work functionally, so when you're actually doing something, and if you're not that creative, you can still do and be effective in combat, right? And they even have like the wild stuff where it's like you're shooting to give yourself a boost, like you got one shot, one kill, like all these sorts of crazy things that they just have in this move set. Every time I read a new move, I'm like, ooh, what's this do? Oh, what's this do? Oh my God, what does this do? I did that for almost every single move and was just amped. And I know a lot of people that have been waiting for Gunslinger are going to be in the same boat where they're like, oh, I hope they do this, I hope they do that. They did most of it. I want to say if there was a list of like 9 things or 10 things that I would want, I see all 10 things on this list, right? Or I see 9. The only thing they didn't do was they didn't do the grit or the panache thing that I thought they were going to do to make these kind of like swashbucklers, right? But instead they just go, just shoot shit. Just shoot shit, right? It'll take an extra action, you do whatever, just shoot shit. And in my mind, that's all I really want a gunslinger to do. Be able to shoot shit, but be effective, be cool, be interesting, have some flair, right? And they did that perfectly with this. I know there's probably things that are going to move around. I know there's some things that might need some polish and maybe a couple of words tweaked here and there. Paizo, don't do nothing. Leave it alone. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Leave it alone. I like it. Just leave it alone. Just do that, But
that means it's overtuned. Leave
it alone. Because I'm going to say this. In the middle of a fight, when I get my gun, after I'm about to like shake the crap out of somebody and deceive him, I'm going to tell him, I'll be your Huckleberry. Now!